Hollywood's silent tension just got loud, and Michael Jai White is the man pulling back the curtain. For years, rumors swirled. Whispers about a feud. Glimpses of animosity. But now, Michael isn't whispering anymore. He's speaking out loud and clear, and what he's revealing about Steven Seagal is shaking the industry.
I felt like Steven embarrassed himself. Because, Steven hired me 3 different times. I think nobody has a right to have such an inflated ego, especially when people can do what you do.
From calling him unprofessional and arrogant to leveling explosive claims about racism and ego, Michael didn't just spill the tea. He set the entire table on fire. And for fans who followed the long-standing tension between these two martial arts titans, it's the moment they've been waiting for. But that's just the beginning. There are now swirling allegations of legal trouble, talk of Seagal fleeing the U.S., and a trail of controversy that refuses to stay buried. So what really happened behind the scenes? Why did Michael feel the need to speak now? And is there more to Steven Seagal's fall from grace than we've ever been told? Speech balloon, whose side are you on? Team Michael or Team Seagal? In the comments, we want to hear your take, because this is one celebrity story that hits harder than any action scene. Let's dive in. The beef between Steven Seagal and Michael Jai goes way back to the early 2000s. But a lot of it had more to do with Steven's terrible behavior on and off set than with any personal relationship they might have had. And now, everything has reached a boiling point with Michael speaking up about how Steven nearly ruined his career. In this prime, Steven Seagal was one of Hollywood's most feared action stars. He built his career on a tough guy image that, unfortunately, he took too far many times. On the other hand, Michael Jai White is a real martial artist and a tournament fighter who is respected by all the biggest combat sports athletes in and outside the country. However, despite their differences, they were colleagues and worked on multiple projects together. In fact, Seagal personally asked Michael Jai White to appear in his movies or help direct them many times. Fast forward to 2012, and Steven made a shocking comment about Michael in an interview. The interviewer had asked Steven if he thought Michael was a great fighter, and he basically laughed in his face before outrightly saying he doesn't respect Michael's career one bit. It wasn't exactly surprising because Steven is known for dismissing other fighters and making himself out to be the best of them all. However, the fact that he was talking down on someone who he had personally asked to be in his projects was wild, and it completely changed the tone of their relationship. See, Steven Seagal's career had an insane run for decades. And there was once a time when action movie heads thought he was the best thing after sliced bread. As a young man, he moved to Japan to better his knowledge of martial arts culture. He earned a black belt in Aikido, a Japanese martial art that focuses on blending within attackers' movements to control their actions with minimal movement. It involves a lot of disciplined, precise moves and encourages people to curb their inner violence. Steven married his first wife, Miyako Fujitani, whose family was basically martial arts royalty. He ended up running Miyako's family's Aikido school, making him the first American to teach in an Aikido dojo. He later moved to Los Angeles, where he continued teaching Aikido. It wasn't until 1988 that he appeared in his first movie, Above the Law, the first American movie to feature Aikido in fight sequences. The movie was a hit, establishing Seagal as a budding actor and worthy contemporary with the leading action actors at the time, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, and so on. Steven pretty much became a household name in the Hollywood action genre when he starred in the 1992 film Under Siege. He played the role of Casey Ryback, a former Navy SEAL who defends a U.S. Navy battleship after it's taken over by a group of mercenaries. The film was so successful that it had a 1995 sequel, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. However, around the same time, rumors of Steven Seagal's terrible behavior had started spreading among Hollywood circles. In 1991, he was invited to host an episode of Saturday Night Live, but the experience didn't go down well with a ton of people. SNL's longtime producer Lorne Michaels and cast members David Spade and Tim Meadows called Steven the show's worst host ever. He allegedly mistreated the cast and writers and refused to do a Hans and Franz sketch because the title's characters had previously threatened to beat him up. Julia Sweeney also later revealed that Steven had some pretty disturbing plot ideas, like one involving a woman who had just been SA'd and had to come to him for therapy, and then her psychiatrist tried to sleep with her. It's just really weird. Basically, people started seeing who Steven was behind his tough guy facade, a bully who thought it was okay to talk to people anyhow and could get away with it. Apart from SNL, he also had drama with many action stars and real-life martial arts masters. He always acted like he was the best thing since sliced bread and believed everyone was below him. He'd talk smack about martial artists and mock his colleagues in interviews. But when the time came to walk the talk, he'd be nowhere to be found. However, you can offend only so many people in the industry before it starts affecting your career. And Steven was about to learn a hard lesson about what happens when no one wants to work with you again. Steven was a good action guy, but not a great actor, so all his movies started to flop after Under Siege, from Fire Down to Glimmer Man. By 2001, it was so bad that he needed a serious career comeback, or else his status as a major action star was going to be over. And that's where Exit Wounds comes in. The movie was supposed to be Seagal's big comeback. It had a great plot, excellent producers, a big budget, and a star-studded cast with people like rapper DMX and Isaiah Washington. Steven also called on his colleague, martial arts guru Michael Jai White. Exit Wounds was set up to be a huge success. However, Steven Seagal's past behavior and constant need to let everyone know what a tough guy he was became his downfall. For one, it had become common knowledge that Steven was difficult to work with. Stunt artists especially hated working with him because he would always deviate from the script and hit them harder than was required. Sometimes so hard that they had to be taken off set and get medical attention. One incident that ruined Seagal's image even more happened during the set of Deadly Ground in 2004 with Sven-Ola Thorsen, a well-respected actor and stuntman. While they were filming a fight scene, Steven deviated from the script and hit Thorsen with full force on the throat, wounding him. Another time, he slammed actor John Leguizamo against a brick wall simply because Leguizamo laughed when Steven declared himself as being in charge. According to Leguizamo, Steven couldn't separate his movie persona from his real-life behavior. The man was going around acting like he was a real-life superhero. Now, during the filming of Exit Wounds, Seagal had issues with everybody. Or should I say everyone had issues with him. Both cast and crew members were afraid to work with him and deal with his temperament and bullying behavior. So there was already more than enough tension to go around. To make matters worse, Seagal made filming more difficult for everyone because he didn't want to take instructions from anyone. Even comedian Tom Arnold had issues working with him. He also refused to act from any angle or do anything that would make him look bad on camera, like running. And then things took a dark turn when stuntman Chris Lehman died while filming a scene. Lehman was a very experienced stuntman who had worked on multiple movies before. However, something went wrong while he was performing a dangerous vehicle stunt, and he fell down and cracked his head. He was rushed to the hospital, but his injuries were so serious that he eventually didn't make it. Now imagine how terrified the other stuntmen would be on set. You would think Steven Seagal would at least consider all this and act like a decent person. But no, he was handing out injuries left and right, turning what should have been simple stunt sequences into dangerous moves. Even DMX got injured because Steven twisted his arm and refused to follow the script, leading to DMX falling down hard. By the time the filming was coming to an end, everyone was sick and tired of Steven. They wanted him off, literally. The last scene they were going to film was supposed to be a fight scene between Michael Jai White and Steven Seagal. It was going to be the ultimate showdown, the actor versus villain fight that the audience had been waiting for. However, things took an interesting turn. Michael later spilled the tea about how everyone was so tired of putting up with Steven that they came to him one by one. Both actors and crew members and told him that they wouldn't mind if he happened to knock Steven out. Like, they wanted him to beat the crap out of Steven and make him feel so raggedy that he wouldn't be able to finish filming. Michael definitely had the skills to take Steven down. I mean, a real martial artist respected all over the world next to a washed-up actor? Steven didn't stand a chance. Michael also had a motive. He had witnessed Steven bully so many people by this point that he had lost every ounce of respect for him. Yeah? Let's just say if something were to happen to Steven, nobody would be mad. However, Michael chose the professional route and didn't do anything to him. The fight scene ended up being terrible because Steven had a clause in his contract stating that nobody could hit him for real, so Michael couldn't even go full speed. Fast forward to 2012, and Steven would do that interview where he laughed at the idea of Michael Jai being a great fighter. According to Michael, at that point, he realized that Steven was really just an insecure, small-minded man who couldn't face the fact that other people were better than him. Sadly, Steven's career never recovered from all the burnt bridges, and today he mostly makes silly action movies for studios in Thailand. But wait, it gets worse. There have been rumors that Steven Seagal might be in trouble with the law in the US, which is why he's now hiding out in Russia. For those who don't know, Steven was granted Russian citizenship by Vladimir Putin in November 2016 after he had been on a pro-Putin media tour for years. He always claimed that he had Russian heritage, and he really started leaning toward that as his career went downhill. He called Putin his brother and described him as one of the greatest living world leaders. Putin eventually recognized Steven's fanboying and granted him Russian citizenship, which prompted him to start referring to himself as 1,000,000% Russian. Putin also awarded Steven an Order of Friendship for his major contribution to the development of international culture and humanitarian cooperation. But see, it wasn't just the constant glazing that made Putin give Seagal all these awards and recognition. Oh no, Seagal actively participated in Russian propaganda, especially surrounding the war in Ukraine. He helped produce multiple propaganda films, painting Russians as heroes and Ukrainians as villains or inferior. One of his recent propaganda movies in favor of Russia is a film called In the Name of Justice. The film featured Seagal visiting a war-torn Ukraine, and the message was basically that the Ukrainians brought everything upon themselves. In one clip from 2020, Seagal straight up called Ukrainians Nazis, and he takes whatever opportunity he can get to blame them for the war. Steven faced so much backlash for this, with people calling him racist. But why would he do all this? Well, there have been whispers going around that Seagal has tax violations that could fill up an entire notebook. And y'all know one thing about Uncle Sam? He's always going to collect. Why else would Seagal choose Russia, a country that has no extradition treaty with the US? Yeah, it definitely looks like someone who is running from something. He didn't just pack a few bags. He moved his entire life over there and has allegedly been slowly selling off all his US property. As for Michael, he never respected Steven after everything that went down between them. He bashed Steven in a recent interview, saying his acting skills were so bad that anyone's dad could pull off his stunts. When Steven saw how bad things were going for him, he eventually tried to fix his relationship with Michael by apologizing. But Michael saw right through Steven's act, and he knew Steven was just looking out for himself as usual. Michael Jai White doesn't even have to do too much. Steven keeps exposing himself through his actions. Honestly, it's a sad way to go out. But what do you guys think about the rise and fall of Steven Seagal? Do you think he could have done things differently? Let us know in the comments and check out this next video.